Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to speak to you today about the situation in Afghanistan. As you know, we had requested participation in this Security Council meeting, but unfortunately, as was the case on the last occasion, Pakistan was denied the opportunity to address the Council. And this is most regrettable because we believe that Pakistan has an important contribution to make at this important and vital juncture in the destiny of Afghanistan and the stability and peace in our region. India's partisan and obstructionist actions are an illustration of the hatred for Pakistan which exists in India, and their peak, and that their plan to continue the conflict in Afghanistan and to continue the sponsorship of terrorism against Pakistan from Afghanistan could be neutralized once peace is restored throughout Afghanistan. We are not surprised by India's anti-Pakistan partisanship. This confirms Pakistan's long-held contention that India does not deserve to be on the Security Council, much less to aspire to become a permanent member of the Council. It is in violation of the resolutions of the Security Council on Jammu and Kashmir and is in the process of conducting a campaign of genocide against the people of Jammu and Kashmir with 900,000 troops deployed in the occupied territory. While blocking Pakistan and other neighbors of Afghanistan from addressing the Council, the representative of a now defunct regime was invited to speak to the Council. There was considerable pathos in this spectacle. Ambassador Akram is an esteemed colleague, but the person who appointed him here recently has fled Afghanistan to calls of betrayal from some of his own ministers and the army chief. It is therefore unclear on whose behalf Ambassador Akram participated in the Security Council. Ladies and gentlemen, if we were allowed to speak to the Council today, I would have first of all informed the Council of the meeting of the National Security Committee of Pakistan, chaired by Prime Minister Imran Khan, where the overall situation in Afghanistan was discussed. Pakistan has been a victim of decades of conflict in Afghanistan, and we desire peace and stability in our neighborhood. The world knows of the sacrifices that we have made. In our meeting today, the Pakistan stance that the conflict in Afghanistan never had a military solution was confirmed. The ideal time to end the conflict through negotiations might have been when the US and NATO troops were at their maximum military strength in Afghanistan. Continuation of foreign military presence for a longer duration now would not have yielded any positive outcome. Therefore, endorsement by the Biden administration of the previous US administration's decision of troop withdrawal was indeed a logical conclusion to this conflict. It is now time for the international community to work together to ensure an inclusive political settlement for a long-term peace, security, and development of Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan is making active efforts to promote an inclusive political settlement in Afghanistan. We, at our invitation, the leadership of a number of political parties and groups in Afghanistan, representing all the multi-ethnic groups apart from the Pashtuns, are present in Islamabad and have met with our foreign minister and with our leadership today. They have promised to engage continuously with the Taliban and to try to evolve an inclusive Afghan government. Pakistan will work with them and with the Taliban representatives to advance this objective, an objective of an inclusive political government, which is important for durable peace and stability in Afghanistan. If we had spoken in the Council, we would have also informed the Council of the efforts we are making to facilitate the safe evacuation of diplomats, representatives of international organizations, and others from Afghanistan. Pakistan's Foreign Secretary today briefed the diplomatic corps in Islamabad that the Embassy of Pakistan in Kabul will continue to facilitate visas for diplomats and other international personnel. Whenever needed, arrangements will be made for issuing visas to such people on arrival. A facilitation center has been set up by our Ministry of Interior to ensure the expeditious processing of visas and other requirements to enable the smooth and timely evacuation from Kabul. We will try to mount a series of flights to Kabul airport as soon as conditions allow in order to continue the evacuation which we have already started. Earlier today, we have evacuated a number of people from the Danish embassy, 421 Afghan employees of the Danish embassy, which we are evacuating from Kabul. Thirdly, Pakistan has called upon all Afghan parties, including the Taliban, to ensure the preservation of law and order in Kabul and elsewhere. Our immediate priorities should be aimed at the maintenance of law and order and safety and security of all Afghan civilians, especially women and children. Fundamental human rights must be upheld. All civilian property and infrastructure must be protected. There must be complete respect for human rights and international humanitarian law. And we support the statement of the Secretary General in this regard. Fourthly, the safety and security of the diplomatic community and premises, as well as UN personnel, humanitarian workers, and other international staff, is paramount. There is need to urgently address the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan. UNAMA, we hope, will make an evaluation of the humanitarian needs of the Afghan people. We urge the UN Secretary General to report as soon as possible on the humanitarian needs in Afghanistan in order to mobilize emergency help through OCHA and other international agencies. We call on all Afghan parties to ensure unhindered access and humanitarian aid across Afghanistan, as well as to ensure the safety and security of UN personnel and humanitarian workers. Pakistan will facilitate such operations. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from these immediate actions, the international community should look ahead to other steps designed to promote durable peace and stability in Afghanistan. The infrastructure destroyed in this long conflict needs to be reconstructed, including the transport infrastructure, which can enable Afghanistan to serve as a hub for regional trade and commerce. The international community also needs to engage with the new authorities in Afghanistan to eliminate the threat posed by terrorist organizations which have used Afghanistan's territory with the sponsorship of the intelligence agencies of some of our neighbors for attacks and sabotage against Pakistan and other neighbors of Afghanistan. Groups such as the Daesh, the TTP, the JUA, the ETIM, IMU, these are all organizations which must be contained and their activities constrained and eliminated from the territory of Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what I had to say. Open to your questions.
Ambassador, you talk about an inclusive government for Afghanistan, but don't the Taliban now want to rule on their own? Do you have any indication from the Taliban that they would accept an inclusive government? And if they don't, will Pakistan recognize the Taliban again as the government of Afghanistan?
I think the Taliban have said that they will accept an inclusive government, that they would wish to have a government which represents all groups in Afghanistan. And we would like to take them at their word. We are working towards that end. That's why we have invited the representatives of the Afghan parties or the non-Pashtun Afghan parties there in Islamabad today. We're talking to them. They are agreeable to engage with the Taliban in order to form an inclusive authority. And we hope that our efforts and the efforts of other friends will be successful.
Ambassador, Michelle Nichols from Reuters. How important is the role of women in a new Afghanistan government, and how concerned are you by reports of rights abuses by the Taliban against women?
Thank you. No, it is obvious that the women of Afghanistan must continue to play an important role. They have demonstrated their ability to do so, and we are hopeful that the Taliban authorities and the new inclusive government will respect that and will enable them to play that role. The Taliban statements have said that they accept girls' education, women's working under an Islamic system, and as you know, in Islam, women have equal rights, and we hope that those rights will be respected in any new formation in Afghanistan. I'm sorry?
And that women should be a part of any new government. There should be female members of a new Afghan government.
Well, we hope there will be female members of the Afghan government. It is, of course, for the Afghans themselves to come forward and put forward women candidates or women who are willing to be part of this inclusive government. But we certainly, from our part, would hope that women will be represented and will be able to participate in the future of Afghanistan.
Did you say you're evacuating Pakistani nationals or Afghan nationals?
We are evacuating all diplomatic personnel.
Your diplomatic?
All diplomatic personnel who wish to evacuate and wish to come through Pakistan. All representatives of international agencies who have requested our help in being evacuated, and all other personnel who feel that they are in danger, we would be willing to look at the possibility of taking them out.
So you're helping UN national staff and international staff
Absolutely.
evacuate?
Absolutely.
via Pakistan?
We are in touch with all the international agencies, IMF, World Bank, etc., who have offices in Kabul, and whoever wishes to leave from the diplomatic personnel and from the international agencies, we will process the visas. Some of the visas we will issue on arrival, so we will facilitate their evacuation. The issue, of course, now is Kabul airport. Apparently, there has been some incidents there. So I hope that we will be able to resume flights. The Pakistani International Airlines will arrange the flights, and we will take out people who we process.
When was the last time a flight went out from?
Today.
Today.
This
so
morning.
They're at the airport?
This morning we evacuated personnel from the Danish mission.
So the Taliban is cooperating with Pakistan on this evacuation?
Well, the international airport, as you know, is under US control now.
Ambassador, one more question. In terms of the way Pakistan sees things, the inclusive government, but after that, does democracy return to Afghanistan? Does Pakistan believe Afghanistan should still have a democratic system?
Well, you know, James, we have a democratic system. For Afghanistan, the final choice is it's for the people of Afghanistan to choose whether they will have, what is the system they want. They want the Islamic system. I think they have to talk amongst themselves and evolve what sort of system they want. It's obvious that we will need a new constitution, will be needed, and it is for them, therefore, to evolve that constitution amongst themselves, and we would not wish to dictate anything in that regard.
We heard from different Security Council members today saying the Security Council should act. The Secretary General also said this. What do you think the Security Council should do in this situation?
Well, I think in my opening remarks I tried to spell out what we think should happen. The Security Council, I think, first of all, it's important that the UN is there and should continue to be there. The humanitarian needs need to be met, and the UN is best placed to do that, unanimous there. We hope a good early assessment will be made of what is needed in terms of humanitarian help for the Afghan people, and that this will be provided, and Pakistan stands ready to facilitate such humanitarian help. As far as any other actions, I think we should, the United Nations should see what the Afghans require, and to continue to help with the negotiation for a inclusive political government. I think that the role for the United Nations, we should continue to support the Afghans to come together, and that sort of encouragement should be necessary, I think. Thank you so much. That we will take you over, because that depends on the other side too. But if you want to go to the border and see the situation, and there have been various kinds of reports coming out, please, you know, she'll arrange your visas, and we'll put you on a flight whenever you want.
Great, thank you.
What did you say? No, at the airport. How is this being facilitated? Who's protecting the airport? The U.S. Marines?
We understand that the airport is under the control of the U.S.
Right. Okay.
So that's, you know, we have to work with them to get people out.
And they're cooperating, or what? I mean,
Well, of
what's
course,
the scene?
No, I think that's the purpose. To be there is to enable people to leave. You know.
How long will this continue? This evacuation?
No, I think that's a good question to ask the U.S.
Can you clarify, should the Afghan ambassador to UN continue to perform these functions or not?
I won't want to address it. I hope that he is able to represent whatever is the authorities that emerge in Afghanistan, so he represents his country rather than himself.
Just to represent himself, not country?
No, but at the moment it's very unclear who he represents. The government which nominated him is not there. The president the president who signed his papers has fled. So the question arises: who does he represent? I hope he will continue to represent the new authorities, but that's for the Afghan authorities to determine. So at the moment, it's a bit of a limbo, his situation.
Thank you.